Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's Wednesday Wisdom guest. But as always, we want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. Um, you've heard me say this before. These are all companies that I've used as an athletic director, and I really recommend that you use them too. So take the next 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go visit the sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to thank K-12 Sports Tech for being the name sponsor of all of our Wednesday Wisdom segments. K-12 Sports Tech helps athletic directors and sports vendors connect through education and hands-on consulting. Athletic directors are also invited to join the K-12 Sports Tech AD think tank and help influence how companies shape their tech to better serve schools. For more information, all you have to do is go to k12sportstech.com. That's it, k12sportstech.com. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. You heard me say before, Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for scheduling, for communication, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't do that every day? Home Campus does all of this and a lot more, does it better and does it faster than other platforms. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. We also want to thank Gipper. Your students are on social media. A lot of parents are too. And if you're not creating content to celebrate their accomplishments and promote your program, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. Gipper is going to help you do that. You'll be creating world-class content in seconds. And again, it's so easy, even I can do it. Gipper is used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our kids and our parents loved it too, that allowed our students to experience sports at the highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo to see their scoreboards and their score tables in action. Probably the best purchase I ever made as an athletic director was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We'd also like to thank Hometown Ticketing. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com for more information. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to say thanks to our friends at Snap Raise. If you've ever been disappointed with a fundraising program or platform, stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. It works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. We want to say thanks to the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. This affordable 20-month, totally online program allows you to earn your master's degree while also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses to go toward your RAA or your CAA. You're also going to be part of a nationwide network of athletic administrators with connections across the country. All you have to do to get started is go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters. We'd like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're also a great way to tell your school's unique history and share your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their products today. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but usually it's from a very small group that wants to complain about everything. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that small group, but they'll also connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders who support your program. And that information is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We've got one of our original Wednesday Wisdom team members back with us. She took a little bit of a break, but we're excited to have her back. Regular listeners will recognize the name Misty Buck. If you're new to the podcast, Misty was an outstanding athlete. She had a coaching career. She's also a best-selling author. She got a couple of books out on Amazon, and she's a consultant in a number of areas, branding and marketing, along with student athlete mental health, mental fitness, mental performance. She wears a lot of hats, but she wears them all well. Misty Buck, welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back. It's always such a pleasure and an honor to be here. So thanks for making the time and thanks for having me on.
Oh my gosh, the honor is ours. We're going to do this again at the end of the podcast. And for our listeners, we're actually recording this on June 25th. So you're hearing it the very next day. You've got a speaking engagement coming up and here in Florida. And if you're an athletic director that's listening to this, if you're involved in your state association and you're looking for a quality presenter to talk to students or coaches or even parents, you should really reach out to Misty Buck. Misty, share with our listeners about that particular speaking engagement coming up here in Florida. And then, of course, we'll give out your contact information at the end of the show.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate. Thanks for bringing that up, and I appreciate your support in that. So actually being a guest on this show helped me land that engagement. So thank you to you. I got to give credit where credit is due, right? So I'm speaking next month at the FHSAA Student Leadership Seminar. Stepping in as the mental health keynote speaker for this year. So I'll be speaking at both events, one in Central Florida, one in South Florida, how they try to plan it. And the topic that we're going to tackle this time around is how to manage overwhelming emotions. So we find a lot of times that not just student athletes, but I think all of us get sort of saddled with these feelings of overwhelm, right? Especially when there's so many different things going on and you want to do them all well, and various things go into that. So we're gonna look into that. I'm excited to dive into that topic with the students in attendance and help them understand a little bit more about what that feels like and their emotions, and then give them a few tools. Talk about toolboxes. We're going to give them a few tools on how to manage all that.
It sounds great. And you and I talked about this. I'm actually going to come down to your Orlando presentation to listen and be there to support my good friends. So again, if you're interested in finding out more about Misty Buck, we're going to give out all of her contact information at the end of this segment. So let's get back to Wednesday Wisdom. It's been a while. Obviously, it's I guess you could say it's the start of summer. School's been out for a couple weeks at least, I think, in most parts of the country. What do you have for our listeners this week on Wednesday Wisdom?
Yes. So we've tackled so many different subject areas on your Wednesday Wisdom show before. So again, I appreciate the space that you give me to have these conversations, because they're such important conversations to have. And I hear a lot of times from coaches, from ADs, even from parents, where do I even begin? Like, I know I'm understanding mental health is important, mental wellness is important. I need to be having more of these discussions, but like, where do I begin? That seems to be the top question, right? So I thought it would be helpful to kind of just do a back to basics, some tips that I'll share with you all as we go along shortly, just for how to do that, right? And I think the first thing, Jake, that I think is really important for everyone to think about, again, whether you're an AD, a coach, a parent, whatever, is, and it sometimes can be overwhelming and hard to do this, but to just take a step back. This is when we know we talk about fundamentals so much in sports. Take a step back and remember that the students, coaches, whoever it is that you're working with, they're human beings, right? So everybody, yes, and let's say I'm the student athlete, right? So I have this label as a student and who I need to be as a student, and I have this label as an athlete and who I need to be as an athlete, but I'm an entire human being, right? So I think we want to first and foremost recognize, and again, this sounds so simple, but how often do you really take a step back and try to see the whole individual, right? Beyond just the sport or school or whatever the label might be at the moment. And so when we do that, we remember everyone's human. Everybody wants to succeed, but everybody also really wants to feel heard. Everybody wants to feel seen. They want to feel validated, right? And I mention those things because those are the very basics. Those are the things that help you build trust with athletes, coaches, whoever it is that you're working with, so that they feel like they can open up to you about struggles, if it's mental health or otherwise, right? They have to feel safe with you. They have to feel like they can trust you. And then starts by happening when you look at the individual and remember, you know, that just like I want to feel peace, this person wants to feel peace. Just like I have fears, this person has fears. Just like I want to feel safe, heard, and seen, this person wants to feel safe, heard, and seen. So I think it's that. So when we're looking at the fundamentals, I think that's one of the top places to start.
You know, you're absolutely right, and I just can't help but look back 100 years ago when I was in high school, and our coaches. It just wasn't something that was on their radar. I think they cared about us, but you just didn't talk about that. And of course, you end up as a young coach, you coach how you were coached. And, I remember telling, my athletes, hey, this is football practice, this should be the best part of your day. And, I don't care what happened in math class or, just, let's focus on football. But as, we've found out, kids, whether it's kids have always been wired differently or kids today are wired differently, you really if you want to be the best coach from a football, basketball, cheer, whatever it is, you really have to spend that time. And, I'm going to oversimplify severely, build those relationships, with those kids in addition to coaching them.
Absolutely. And I think, you're talking about building um relationships and coaching the athlete. And there is a time and place, right? So I always say the locker room is not a therapist office, and that's true, right? So there's time and space for this. I think this is maybe some of the gap in conversation, is that sometimes it happens. We want to teach resiliency, we want to teach focus, we want to teach performance. We as a coach or an AD, you have certain marks and metrics that you have to meet. You want your kids and your students to understand there's going to be marks and metrics that you have to meet in life too. But so we're having the same conversation. This is still resiliency, this is still performance, this is still, do your job, but having that conversation in a little bit of a different way. I think that's really all it is, just approaching it from a little bit of a different plane. I can give some tips on maybe how to do that as well.
Well, again, we mentioned your books. I'm holding one of them right here, the Athlete Mental Health Playbook. a great resource for coaches and ADs, and again for athletes and parents. Get it on Amazon. But just looking at the chapters, I'm trying to think which one I want you to take a deep dive in. And again, listeners, you need to go out and get your own book. Um, you know, you want me to pick one, or do you want to pick one to talk about?
If there's something that stands out to you, sure, go for it. I have to remind myself which chapter is which, but
Well, I won't challenge you. I won't just say chapter 6 and expect you to remember that.
go.
I'll give you the title. Um, well, I literally was looking at this last week when this came up on one of our podcasts. Um, and you kind of addressed it, but the balancing sport and life. I mean, it's Captain Obvious stuff, but it's so critical, and so many coaches, including myself, didn't do as good a job as they could have, should have done. So, what's some quick advice? Again, we want these listeners to go out and buy the book. What's some quick advice in that parameter to help that young coach, old coach, struggling coach find help his student athletes or her student athletes find better balance?
Right, great question. This comes up a lot, as you can imagine. So I think again, it's important to first and foremost recognize that balance is not always a time issue. So what do I mean by that? We look at balance and we think, okay, work-life balance, the first thing that pops to mind for most people is it has to be 50% work, 50% life, or whatever. I'm just throwing something out there for an easy example, right? So we think of balance in terms of time and percentages quite often. But balance can also be an inner feeling. So how do you help somebody feel balanced? Like you can't control the practices that you have. You got a job to do too, right? You got to do what you got to do. The teachers have to do what they do. Everyone has their roles and responsibilities. The kids are under tremendous pressure. um the game is changing. We know this. I'm not gonna get into too much about that, but um I think in terms of helping to create balance, again, it goes back into sometimes just having conversations can help somebody relieve some of that pressure and help them feel more balanced inside. This is why I'm so glad we're talking about overwhelming emotions at next month's workshop, right? So how do you do this? Well, think about basic stuff, right? So can you bring in um people to do workshops? Can you have peer groups? Can you bring in athletes that have maybe advanced into other levels, like maybe former students or something? Do like a quick call or video chat with the team to explain, how they got through things. Really meeting people where they're at. I think that's one of the biggest things is meeting people where they're at, giving them a space to be heard. And that alone can help create a sense of balance because now you don't feel so overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, I got to do this, and that. The facts don't change, right? Your responsibilities don't change. It's hard to say, we can't, unfortunately, and say, oh, let me just take that test away from you and don't worry about this and go ahead and skip practice. Like, that's not reality, right? So, what we can do is teach resiliency, and we teach resiliency, but resiliency doesn't always mean you have to be super tough on somebody for them to learn how to be. They have to learn something the tough way. We can teach people resiliency by helping them and giving them tools to feel heard, to feel like they can relieve some stress and find a little bit more inner balance. I hope that helps.
No, absolutely. I think for so many years, again, my generation, certainly, it was just kind of a one-way monologue. The coach would say, you're going to do this. And we did that. Kids today, I hate that expression, but it's true. They want to feel, like they're more of a relationship, that they have input, that they have agency, if you will, that they have some degree of control over, their entire life. The coach is still in charge, but we talk about the expression work when you work with parents. Um, Instead of telling parents, hey, you stay in your lane, this is my lane. Now it's we acknowledge that they're going to be along for the ride. We're not giving them the keys to the car, but let's
Right.
try to make it a positive ride. And for the kids, when they are engaged, when they do feel that agency, again, big surprise, you're going to get more out of them athletically, if you will. And you as a coach, you're probably going to enjoy it more yourself. That whole relationship building. Very cool stuff. Um,
Yeah.
Misty, we don't want to take away the whole book. We also don't want to take away your presentation in a couple weeks. But if one of our listeners, whether it's a coach or an AD, maybe even a parent listening, wanted to find out more, how can they connect with Misty Buck?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So, I'll give you all, well, you could, my email address is Misty, my first name, at purpose, Purpose, soul, Soul, athletics.com. So Misty at purposesoulathletics.com. You can find me on my website, purposesoulathletics.com. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever. There are other Misty Bucks out there, strangely enough, but you can find some, but my handle is the Misty Buck on Instagram. That's a pretty easy way to reach me.
Yeah, you're the original Misty Buck. Uh, and again, her books, the Athlete Mental Health Playbook and also the Athlete Branding Blueprint. Misty's
Yeah.
also a professional brander and marketer for, individuals and athletes. And you should really add her to your network. Misty, thanks again, as always, for sharing with our listeners. All the best moving forward. And I am definitely looking forward to seeing your presentation in July at the FHSA Student Athlete Seminar.
Yeah, well, thank you again for that introduction, and I am really looking forward to meeting you in person finally.
That's finally, yeah, it's been,
Finally.
has it been at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, but
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it's been
yeah.
a little bit in years
Okay.
at
Well, you
least.
are one of the original members of our Wednesday Wisdom team, and so we appreciate that. Um, for listeners, we appreciate you. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this every single week, and the other days we try to share stories and best practices for athletic directors, coaches, and leaders. So thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, before we go, as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We want to thank K-12 Sports Tech. They sponsor our Wednesday Wisdom feature. Go to k12sportstech.com. Join their AD think tank, find out all the great things they can do for you. For the rest of our sponsors, we want to say thanks to Gipper. Create world-class marketing content for your school, your teams, your athletes. That's gipper.com. Huddle, as a football coach, I used Huddle as an athletic director. We were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com, find out all the tools that they can use, that you can use to help promote your program. I want to thank the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. My assistant athletic director got his master's at Ohio University through Ohio University's online program. He also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses while he did it. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA. We want to say thanks to Home Campus. It's a platform that you will use every single day. Go to homecampus.com to get started. We want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. We want to thank Snap Raise. If you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. We'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. We use surveys for just about everything at our school, and the information that comes back is really valuable, especially when you're talking with your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. And we'd like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Thanks again for listening to this segment of Wednesday Wisdom. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.